Einmal noch. Test, Test, Test. Okay.
Da route nämlich intern nur den ersten Kanal
Auf die alle
meine
weiter.
Sprachkanäle,
Okay.
die ausgeschickt.
Ja.
Nur falls das Web-TV irgendwas macht.
Moram ja. Da. Šokirala sam. Sa tim marim hormonima i ovim i onim i 300 puta.
Good morning. We don't have a gong, we don't have interpretation, so let's go and open the meeting tonight. So, okay, the first thing is to welcome you. This is the first intersessional meeting of the Commission of Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice at its 34th session. And the provisional agenda, as I understand, has been circulated together with the invitation. So, can we adopt the agenda? The agenda is adopted. Okay, before I continue, I would like to kindly request all online participants to indicate in the chat if you want to take the floor. Please, please do not use the raise hand button. Use the chat. Once you are given the floor, then you can turn on your microphone and the camera. And after speaking, turn them off back again. And everybody online, keep their cameras and microphones closed if you can be so kind. It is important that you indicate the name of the country or the organization that you represent when you are given the floor. Thank you for your kind support and cooperation. Now, having taken care of the online announcements, we now go for the first item in the agenda, preparations for the reconvened 34th session of the CCPCJ and the opening of the 35th session. The reconvened 34th session of the Commission will take place on 4th and 5th December. Invitations will be circulated in due course, and the annotated provisional agenda will be made available online ahead of the meeting in due course. So, the joint meeting with the Commission of Narcotics Drugs, which is going to be on 4th December. We will have two meetings on 4th December. The CCPCJ and CND will be held jointly to consider the agenda item on strategic management, budgetary and administrative questions, and agenda item and another agenda item on contributions by the Commission to the work of the Economic and Social Council. Under agenda item 4, the Commission will consider several reports. First, a report by the Executive Director on the consolidated budget for the biennium 2026-2027 for UNODC. The second report would be by the Advisory Committee on administrative and budgetary questions on the consolidated budget for that same biennium, and also for UNODC. The third document is a note by the Secretariat on the draft proposed program for 2027 and the program performance for 2025 for UNODC. And finally, the Commission will review a report of the Executive Director on gender balance and geographical representation within UNODC. The commissions jointly will also discuss the work of FinGov, and they will have before them for consideration a note by the Secretariat on the work of that working group. Following the closure of agenda item 4, agenda item 10 will be taken care of, and under the heading Contributions to the Work of ECOSOC, and those will be the items dealt with jointly with the CND. On a separate meeting on December 5th, the Commission is expected to adopt a resolution on the consolidated budget for the biennium 2026-2027. At this occasion, the Commission is also expected to endorse the members of the FinGov Bureau for 2026, and this is as a result of the joint nomination made by the respective bureaus of the CND and the CCPCJ. Pursuant to the explanatory footnote added to ECOSOC Decision 2022/316, the first vice chair is expected at the end of the calendar year to assume the office of the chair of the working group for the forthcoming year to ensure continuity. I also have reached out to the chairs of the regional groups to ask them to put forward the nominees at ambassadorial level for their respective groups with a deadline on November 15th. Furthermore, the Commission has on the agenda of the reconvened session agenda item 9 on the follow-up to the 14th Crime Congress and the preparations for the 15th Crime Congress. As is established practice, this is for information purposes and not an in-depth substantive discussion as during the regular session. When we close the 34th session on December 5th, the Commission will, as per established practice, open its 35th session for the sole purpose of electing the Bureau of the 35th session. The composition of the Bureau of the 35th session of the CCPCJ would be as follows. In view of the established practice of rotating offices based on regional distribution, the officers to be elected by the Commission at its 35th session will be from the following regional groups. The chair will be from the Western European and other states group. The first vice chair will be someone from Asia Pacific states. The second vice chair from Africa. The third vice chair from Eastern Europe. And finally, the rapporteur from Latin America and the Caribbean. I have asked the chairs of the regional groups to inform the Secretariat as soon as possible, and latest by November 15th, about nominations for these respective functions, so the full Bureau can be elected at the opening of the 35th session. Regarding the dates for the 35th session, the tentative dates of the Commission are as follows, subject to formalization at the time of the 34th reconvened session. For the regular session, it is proposed 1st to 5th June 2026, with pre-session consultations on the 29th of May. As for the reconvened session, it is headed as 3rd and 4th December 2026. There is an important note on this year, because the regular sessions usually take place in May. But since the 15th Crime Congress will be held from 25th to 30th April 2026, the CCPCJ session is scheduled in June in order to have enough time to consider the outcome of the 15th Crime Congress. I also want to recall that in accordance with Commission Decision 21/1, the deadline for the submission of draft resolutions would be 1 month prior to the start of the session, which means that the deadline for the submission of draft resolutions for the 35th regular session would be Monday, May 4th, 2026 at noon. At this point, are there any questions or comments? Is there anything that the Secretariat would like to add? Neither. So, with that, we can move on to the second item in the agenda. So I will close the first one. Preparations for the 15th United Nations Congress on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice in 2026. which is going to be in Abu Dhabi from 25th to 30th April. The 34th session of the CCPCJ approved a draft resolution for adoption by the General Assembly titled Follow-up to the 14th United Nations Congress on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice and preparations for the 15th United Nations Congress on same issues. This draft resolution has been endorsed by the ECOSOC in July and is submitted for further approval to the General Assembly in December. Through the resolution just mentioned, the General Assembly would reiterate its request to the Secretary General to facilitate the organization of ancillary meetings for the 15th Congress. I would like to recall that the guidelines for the ancillary meetings and exhibitions following the practice of previous Congresses in terms of eligibility are available on the Crime Congress website. The application period will run from 15 September to 1st December 2025. Let me make a point here and tell you that as is the practice, we will follow on the established procedure for ancillary meetings requests from several stakeholders, and we are expecting, as always in these cases, a very substantive contribution by not only states parties, but also from experts and institutions and non-governmental organizations. So regarding the upcoming negotiations on the Abu Dhabi Declaration, I also want to recall that an informal meeting together with Ambassador Hamad Al-Kabi, which is the representative from the United Arab Emirates, which is the host country for the 15th Crime Congress, was organized on 26th June. The purpose of that informal meeting was to reflect on the upcoming negotiation process for the Abu Dhabi Declaration and to provide delegations following the 5 regional preparatory meetings with opportunities to identify issues as well as to share ideas on how to achieve, and I quote, a structured, short, and concise declaration, end of quote, as called for in the General Assembly Resolution 79/186. A snapshot reference paper, together with a matrix listing the recommendations stemming from the 5 regional preparatory meetings, were made available ahead of the meeting of 26 June. In addition to feedback shared during the informal meeting, several member states submitted written contributions by the deadline of 14th July. All of these inputs have been carefully considered and served to shape the zero draft of the Abu Dhabi Declaration, which was circulated to all delegations on September 3rd. This draft will serve as the basis for the first round of informal consultations for member states, scheduled to begin this afternoon, September 22nd, and continue through September 26th, under the chairmanship of Ambassador Al-Kabi. I count on the support of all member states in ensuring that the negotiations can happen in a smooth and constructive manner. And I now invite the Secretary to deliver a presentation on the preparations for the 15th Crime Congress.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good morning to all. And as indeed the main purpose of today's intersessional is kind of formally kick off the process for the preparations for the 15th Crime Congress, including starting this afternoon, the negotiations on the Abu Dhabi Declaration. I am very pleased that I can provide some additional information on where we stand in the process and what are the next steps in moving forward. Next slide, please. So just a recap, as there are also many new faces in the room. So for those that have been around for the last sessions, they will recall that the Commission negotiated and agreed on the overall theme for the Congress nearly, I think, 3 years ago. and was then also endorsed by the General Assembly on accelerating crime prevention, criminal justice, and the rule of law, protecting people and planet, and achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in a Digital Age. So the overarching theme links with many topics that are high on the agenda, not just here in Vienna, but in fact in the UN in its entirety. And during the May session next year, also the dates for the 15th Congress were agreed upon within the Commission, as Mr. Chair was already saying, 25th to 30th of April next year, with pre-Congress consultations day before in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates. Next slide, please. The Commission agreed not only on the overarching theme, but also on its agenda, which follows in format the formula that was used also for the Congress in Doha in 2015 and Kyoto in 2021. Namely, there are like 4 pillars with an agenda item, and for each of them a corresponding workshop topic. The agenda items being more broader in nature, dealing with different policy aspects within that agenda item, and the workshop topic being more interactive and also more technical in nature and focused more on a specific topic. But the two are interrelated, and they all fit within the umbrella of the overall theme. Next slide, please. One of the main steps that we have made jointly was the series of regional preparatory meetings in the first quarter of the year, or the first trimester of this year, in each of the regional groups. For each of the regional groups, there was a meeting that took place in the region to provide experts with also those that would not always be able to come to Vienna, with an opportunity to provide insight on what they considered the main trends and the issues to focus on. Each of these regional preparatory meetings have come up within a brainstorming setting with a set of recommendations, and those are made available in the reports of those regional preparatory meetings, which are all available on the website of the CRAM Congress. Next slide, please. From the regional preparatory meetings, a process has started to come to the zero draft of the Abu Dhabi Declaration. Mr. Chair was already referring to a reference paper with a matrix listing the issues that were coming from these meetings, available on the CRAM Congress website. That reference paper, the so-called snapshot, was discussed during meeting held on the 26th of June. The feedback received on the 26th of June, together with contributions that were received by mid-July, have basically been the basis for the zero draft of the declaration. Next slide, please. That process will start this afternoon and will then continue in the months to come, with the aim of having the declaration finalized well ahead of the opening of the 15th CRAM Congress, because the modalities resolutions that were negotiated within the Commission and adopted by the General Assembly were indeed asking that that work would be finalized ahead of the beginning of the Congress. And Mr. Chair was already referring to the 35th session of the Commission that will happen in June next year. The Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice not only being the preparatory body to the Congress, but also the main follow-up body. So the outcome of the Congress will be brought back to the CCPCJ next year to be then further translated into operational action. The Abu Dhabi Declaration will be put in an annex to a resolution, which will be going from the CCPCJ through the Economic and Social Council for final endorsement by the General Assembly. Next slide, please. This is, I hope you can read it, as a bit small, an overview of the organization of work for the 15th Crime Congress, and here also that follows past practice. I have to say that the Congress is one of those bodies that has actually reduced its overall meeting time. There are not that many bodies of the UN that have managed to do, but where in Doha we still had a much longer Congress. Since Kyoto, it has basically been brought into a 6 days meeting, and that is only possible because we will be working in multiple streams. So there will be the plenary with the the high-level debate at the beginning, to be followed then to the 4 agenda items. And there will be a committee 1 and a committee 2 in which the 4 workshops will take place. And the way this is working is that every time the corresponding workshop is taking place first and is then be brought back, the outcome of it brought back into the plenary. So there are 2 committees, but their work will be consecutively. So in a way, they will not work, those 2 committees in parallel, but one after the other. Next slide, please. So here the work will continue for the remaining part of the week. The 2 committees will adopt their own reports, and then that will be brought back for final adoption on the last day of the Congress. Next slide, please. I was already referring to the pre-Congress consultations. There are a number of matters that are traditionally dealt with during the pre-Congress consultations, and one is the election of the General Committee that consists of a president, 1 vice president, 23 vice presidents, chairman of Committee 1, chairperson of Committee 2, and a rapporteur general. The pre-Congress consultations also look into the rules of procedure. The rules of procedure were before the Commission in May. No amendments have been made, so we also expect that this will go smoothly. There will be the adoption of the agenda, the organization of work, and then the credentials for the Congress, so the appointment of the members of the Credentials Committee, and then also the report of the credentials. So that's important to bear in mind, because in the context of the Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, there is no need for credentials, but the Congress being a standalone meeting, credentials are needed. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the composition of the General Committee. So the presidency is usually traditionally taken up by the host country, but then there are 4 other main functions that are divided among the 4 other regional groups for 1 each, and then a number of vice presidents that is also depending on the size of the respective regional group. We will make sure, that all this information is also shared in writing so that you have that and you can also bring it to the attention of capital. Next slide, please. High-level segment happens in the beginning of the Congress. That's also explicitly laid out in the resolution of the modalities resolution of the General Assembly. And traditionally, the list of speakers is established through a drawing of lots happening in the context of an intersessional meeting of the Commission sometime next year. So there are dates indicated also on the screen. I was already referring to the fact that the Congress is much shorter than it used that used to be years ago. I mean, that has, of course, also a bearing on the speaking time. We will need to make sure that everybody adheres to the indicating speaking time, which is also, I mean, meanwhile, the case within the Commission, so that we kindly ask everybody to make the statements short. In case there are longer statements, they can always be made available on the website of the Congress. Next slide, please. So we had the slide in the beginning on the 4 agenda items in plenary. They will be traditionally be introduced by the Secretariat, who has been working on working papers for each of these agenda items. They are now in a clearance process, and we are aiming to make them available online as soon as possible, also in an advanced English version, pending translation in all official languages. I was already referring to the fact that the corresponding workshop happens first, so there will be a reporting back on the outcome of the salient points of that respective workshop. And here again, we will need to be very mindful of the time. Next slide, please. The workshops are much more interactive in nature. They will be organized with first a panel or panels on specific topic, to be followed by interactive discussions with the floor. And there will be salient points coming out of these workshops, which will be included in the Congress report. And what is also important to mention here is that the papers that are guiding these workshops, as well as the panels and the conduct of the workshops themselves, are prepared in close cooperation with institutes belonging to the so-called PNI network, the program institutes, network of program institutes. Next slide, please. High-level side events, we are already discussing also with the host country to have a number of high-level events happening during the high-level segment in parallel to the plenary that can make it also more appealing to ministers and high-level participants to participate, to come all the way to Abu Dhabi. We are going, as UNODC, look into what might be the topics that, together with the Emirates, what are most lending themselves for this high-level side events. For those that are interested to know how those more or less look like, please also feel free to check how they were conducted at the time of the 14th Congress in Kyoto. Next slide, please. We already discussed early on with the Emirates that it would be nice to have a pledge for justice initiative during the high-level segment. This comes as this has been inspired by the pledging initiative that was conducted during the 2024 high-level segment within the CND. That was welcomed by many member states, and we have actually yearly now, within the context of the CND thematic discussions, member states reporting back on a follow-up to the pledge. And we hope that that is also going to be an interesting part for high-level participants to be able to make a pledge at the time of the high-level segment. I mean, once more, these are not just financial pledges, as we saw also for the CND. I mean, it's also about something that will be taken on an initiative in the respective country. Next slide, please. Ancillary meetings and exhibitions. The Congress lives also from the many events that are happening back to back with the formal proceedings. there are guidelines that are made available already online. The application period is until the 1st of September, sorry, the 1st of December, sorry, it started on the 15th of September until the 1st of December. So I would also encourage everybody interested in making an application to do so rather sooner than later. There is also guidelines. There are also guidelines on the holding of exhibitions with the information that we have received so far. As more information is becoming available from the ADNEC Center in Abu Dhabi, we will share that with member states and with all other stakeholders. Next slide, please. Just a reminder that the Congress happens in the 6 official languages, and that documentation, we aim to make this a paperless Congress, in the sense that both the pre-Congress documentation, but also the during the Congress documentation will be available electronically. So if you still want to have a paper copy, we kindly ask you to bring that yourself. Next slide, please. So participation by member states, all this is also clearly stated in the modalities resolutions that were negotiated over the last years within the CCPCJ, and then finally adopted by the General Assembly. So of course, a strong encouragement to have participation at the highest appropriate level, considering that the congresses are the biggest event within the United Nations on crime prevention and criminal justice. So it's both in the scope, its substantive scope, but also in terms of participation, the largest gathering. And also a strong encouragement to member states to also start already ahead of the Congress with national level participations. Next slide, please. Registration. Meanwhile, I think everybody is familiar with the Indico system. Registration will start and is expected to start in the beginning of 2026. And also here, information is available on the website of the Congress and will be shared as it becomes available. Next slide, please. So here an overview of the modalities for registration for other stakeholders. So we have both the NGOs with ECOSOC status, but also the Congress has always been seeing participation also from NGOs without ECOSOC status that will be invited to express their interest, and there will be then a process of non-objection for member states. I'm sure that you are very familiar with that process, as it's also used for other intergovernmental bodies. And then in line with the rules of procedure of the Congress, there is also the participation of individual experts. Information on this is also made available online. Next slide, please. And then one last word, one of the explicit wishes of the executive director herself was to make this Crime Congress the most youth inclusive ever. So we were building on the experiences that were made with the congresses in Doha and in Kyoto. And this time we also had a process that enabled youth already to get engaged at a much earlier stage. Each of the 5 regional preparatory meetings was preceded by online regional youth consultations, and their recommendations were brought to the attention of the regional preparatory meetings. Now, based